the other one too.
That she's.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Hutchinson City Council meeting for November 12th, 2024. We'll call the meeting to order. Approve any council agenda, any agenda additions or corrections.
Mayor, Council, I don't have any additions or corrections for you.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Tim to approve the agenda as presented. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Invocation, Christ the King Lutheran Church. Good evening.
Hello, good to see you. Pastor Steve from Christ the King. Was looking through the scriptures before I came about leadership. Just the Bible speaks a lot about praying for your leaders. And so I know our community, many of us pray for you guys. And not only you, but we just came out of an election and think of all the leaders that we have, different positions and people who put their name forward that didn't get elected to leadership, but we thank them too. So just a word of thanks, and then I thought we'd start with prayer. So let's pray. Gracious God, thank you so much for leadership and for those that are in leadership. We thank you for this group. May they lead our community faithfully and to do the work that they do while looking to you for guidance and strength and vision. We pray for our community and thank you for all that you have blessed us with, and we ask that you would call us to use it to take care of others. And all this in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thanks. Thank you. Next, the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens addressing the council. I'm sorry, we almost skipped one. Recognition of gifts, donations, and community service to the city. Does anybody have anything tonight? Well, I just want to recognize Melissa Starkey and her election team. With some grueling hours were put in. I was over at the canvassing board over in Blanco today, and they had a long night, and it was very busy. A lot of early voting. So just want to thank Melissa and her team for the excellent job they did.
A lot of hours.
Public.
Yeah, I'm not going to see her for the next 3 weeks.
Did mention that she wouldn't be in December. Not a day, but December.
All right. Public comment. Anybody who wants to address the council, just please come forward, state your name and address for the record. All right. Approval of minutes. We have strategic planning workshop of October 22nd, 2024, and the regular meeting minutes of October 22nd, 2024.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Dave to approve those 2 minutes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda. This will be done with one motion unless somebody pulls something off for discussion. A is approval of the 2025 license renewals. B is approval of purchasing snow removal equipment. C is approval of resolution number 15793, resolution approving plans and specification ordering advertisements for bid for lighting number 3, project number 24-09. That's the wastewater treatment facility solid improvement project. D is approval of purchasing water meters for the water meter replacement project. And 3 is approval of issuing temporary liquor license to the Bob and Bobber Brewery Company on December 14th, 2024. And F is claims appropriation and contract payments register A.
Motion to approve consent agenda 1.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Dave to approve consent agenda 1. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Consent agenda, claims appropriation, contract payments, register B. I have a check on there for my business, and so does my son, so I will be abstaining from the vote.
Motion to approve consent agenda 2.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Dave to approve consent agenda number 2, with me abstaining. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Communications and request petitions. Discussion on Skyview Dairy feedlot expansion. Good evening, Dan.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. As you saw in your packet, we included an item for just some discussion purposes relative to the Skyview Dairy feedlot expansion request. As you may know, that facility is located east of town, and it's within the Hutchinson Area Joint Planning Board, and that board is a kind of a planning commission for the area outside the city of Hutchinson that is comprised of each member, each of the townships around the city. So there's 4 townships, a member of the city of Hutchinson, that's Councilmember Sebesta, and then a county commissioner, which is Commissioner Paul Wright. And those 6 people act as a planning commission for that area. And back this spring, Skyview Dairy had requested a conditional use permit for expansion of just under 1,000 animal units for their operation out there. So it would take them from about 2,540 animal units to 3,520. And the Joint Planning Board looked at that, as well as the County Feedlot Committee, and then each of those boards made a recommendation that Skyview go through an environmental assessment worksheet and made that recommendation to the county board. And then the county board went ahead and noted that they would like to see the environmental assessment worksheet as well. So just recently that EAW was completed and went through the kind of the public comment and the disbursement to the various agencies and whatnot. And the city of Hutchinson was one of those agencies as we're on the board to look at that. And we did that, and now the conditional use permit is back on the agenda for November 20th for consideration. And what I wanted to do was get some feedback for that board. Councilmember Sebesta is our representative. He's unable to attend that meeting. And it's one of these things where each of the units of government usually votes on it. And the thought would be is that we provide some feedback on this. A couple of the kind of the comments I guess that I would make relative to the EAW, probably the most important one was within the environmental assessment worksheet. There was a question asked about if there was any land use plans for the area, and in the EAW was noted that there wasn't. However, the city comprehensive plan as well as our growth area plan are within 1 mile of the facility. So this area here, you'll note on our comprehensive plan, future land use map, is the Highway 722 area. And that is commercially zoned property. Right now it doesn't have services available, but that's one thing we've talked about, you know, at some point getting services out there so that area could develop. And then the other one is the area just east of the current industrial park within the growth area plan that we did about a year ago. We note expansion of kind of industrial uses, obviously, as the market would allow for that. So just kind of a point of clarification that, again, the EAW noted that there wasn't any plans, there are plans. And then one of the things that EAW kind of asks about is if there's incompatible uses. And I guess that's really one of the main points is maybe for the council to think about is city commercial industrial property compatible or not compatible with feedlot type uses. And again, I don't know what the answer to that is, but I think it's important that maybe that there's a little bit of a discussion on what that might look like, or if you have questions, just because, again, this is I think the largest feedlot in the county already. It's getting larger. I don't think the city's had really any issues with anything right now up to this point. So it's not staff's objective to say that this should or shouldn't happen. We just want to, again, have it in front of the group to have you be aware of it, and then also be able to provide any comments if you have those.
Dan, can you put that map back up where you show
Sure.
that one? No, the other one.
This one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Does Skyview own the land surrounding that? Are the cities?
I understand they have recently purchased the property just east of the industrial park that surrounds both sides of Highway
sides,
22.
okay. Like it butts up to Factory Direct or not that far?
Not that far up. I think that's owned by the Exed family.
Okay.
If you look on this map,
Yep.
actually, a lot of these parcels are owned by Exed, and then
Okay.
down here is owned by the Skyview, and then down here is owned by Decker, I believe.
And the area we're talking about on that for the city development is, point that out on there, please.
So this is Highway 722.
Yep.
So this is all, again, shown in our future plans, and then the feedlot is right on the edge of the map here, within 1 mile of the city.
Have we had any, Matt, neighbors out in that area express anything, or probably not really aware that they're thinking of the?
There was a public hearing at the Joint Planning Board, and neighbors were notified of that. But in terms of in the city, I haven't gotten any feedback from anybody, city residents.
I don't know if we have any residents. I think most of it's commercial industrial
Yeah,
land that's
yeah.
going to be close to it. I haven't received any feedback from residents at all.
One thing I asked Dan when we were talking about this is if they have enough land to dispose of the waste.
And part of that, as I read through this quite extensively, because I worked with feedlot in the past with Minnesota Farm Bureau, so I'm very familiar with these kind of things. One is 10,000 gallons of manure smells the same as 5,000 gallons of manure. And then secondly, I'm just looking, they are planning on putting a liquid manure storage, but they also are looking at a separator room and tank digester, which helps with that. And they also, as they're incorporating, from this, they're incorporating. So they're actually injecting into the soil as opposed to spreading.
They knife it in.
So, I mean, that would be some of the things that I'd really look for is, are we incorporating versus are we laying on top? Because that's where the smell comes from.
And then I should have maybe noted this earlier, but from the joint planning perspective, it's really the use. The state licenses and reviews everything in terms of the things you just noted, Mr. Burley. And not that they're not relative to this, they are, but really our purview is more is the actual use of it versus the technical, how they're, storing the manure and spreading it. But to your point, Gary, I believe they obviously they need to have the amount of land available for spreading or injecting that's required. And I believe they have plans for that, as it's noted in the EAW.
That may be why they purchased that additional land.
Yeah, I would assume, obviously you need food and
Yeah.
spreading areas so that, and within a reasonable distance, so that makes sense. But is there any other feedback that we can provide the Joint Planning Board that you have specifically in terms of, are you neutral to it? Are you in favor of it? Are you not in favor? I mean, we don't have to necessarily vote, but just some general guidance.
Would you show on that map where I can never think of the farmer's name, that's just east of Mary Ken, Christensen Farm? Can you point that out on that map?
On this one here? Yeah, this is Christensen's right up here. Just would be east of like HDI and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is also a dairy operation, and the scale of that one's smaller than this one.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, I guess on the other side, I think I read something in here and I was looking for it now, was on the report, it says it's not incompatible to, being built where it is.
Yeah, so basically what I had noted in the, and I'll just read it from my staff report here is, let's see here. EAW noted in section 2B, it talks about land in proximity to the proposed feedlot and whether there may be incompatible uses. And then I noted that we have the plans there. And then it noted here that the EAW notes that these uses are not incompatible with a feedlot. So the EAW is saying it's not incompatible to have commercial and industrial uses. I think quite frankly, there's maybe different opinion on that, and that's, some people would say, yeah, it's fine, and others would say maybe it isn't fine. So that's kind of one of the main reasons we want
Well,
to.
really, his footprint isn't increasing typically. He's increasing animals and going to build a structure, but I'm just looking at the overall picture, but he's not increasing his footprint on his farm to house another 900 and some odd head of cattle.
You must be enlarging something, you're not.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, his footprint of his whole farm is not, I don't think.
no, it's just more intensely utilized,
I
I
got
would
the
say.
same thing.
for the- And then the need for obviously more, the technical piece, as I noted earlier, the spreading and things like that. But again, I think this is something that it's right outside the city. It's a, it's a large feedlot. We're the largest city in the county. I think that's the largest operation in the county. And I think we just need to have an understanding of knowing what's going on and either, like I said, yep, that's fine. They've done the environmental review or asking some questions, just more than anything, being transparent and letting you know that this is out there and that there's opportunity to provide some comment.
Did I read that this is going to come up on the planning commission in December now?
No,
No, you didn't have.
no, that was the city planning commission meeting. That is November is not going to meet, and that'll be December. But joint planning is the 20th, and that'll be remaining. Any other, I guess, questions for me, or I know.
I would say this is somewhat unique. We haven't had anything this large next to city be proposed, and so that was part of the reason staff had was that if there's any specific comments that we want to share with that joint planning board, that give the council an opportunity to share that, especially with Dave not being able to be present at that meeting. So.
Well, it's only going to be a problem if we really fill up the industrial park on the far east side, and if that 22-7 intersection becomes a big commercial area, and then if it smells, that's the only problem.
A lot of years down the road, I don't know if you're passing the buck or,
Yeah.
kind of depending on who they end up, the people that develop it, and like you said, Dan, some might not bother at all, some might be completely against it, and then it's if they choose to develop in an area that's been approved. I don't know, I have kind of mixed emotions myself, but it looks like they've gone through all the correct channels to get this.
Yeah, I think they've done a good job in making sure that they completed the application that they needed to. Like I said, for the CUP, the EAW, all that information is there, and it's been, the state is looking at it, and the county board, like I said, had noted that they wanted to see the EAW because typically any feedlot over 1,000 animal units needs to have an EAW done, but this one, because it just grew kind of organically, incrementally, it didn't ever meet the threshold. So the thought was this time, let's have them go through the analysis. Then, like I said, that's where I just noted that one section that said that there wasn't land use plans, and I just wanted to make it clear that there was, and that, that we have this discussion.
What did the township say? I see we have a township member here.
Well, yeah, and I don't, not to speak for the townships, but the meeting's on the 20th, so I know our chairman of the joint planning board is here, Mr. Dahl, but if, I don't know that there's been any specific discussion by the townships. I think that would probably come to fruition on the 20th.
I think, Dan, it's important that we do note that clarification that with this, with our planning area and the fact the document states it does. To me, I think that's probably the one important thing we do note at that meeting.
And we can do that, and that's just to be clear on this, these were adopted plans by the city council. They're not just, some plans. It's, the council adopted one in 2013 and then one last September or October of 23. So again, it's not just some plan that we came up with. These have been out there. Otherwise, that's all I have, unless there's other questions for me. I think we can provide that feedback that you noted that these are adopted plans. And otherwise, I'm hearing that you're not wanting to make a position yay or nay. You're just wanting to basically note that we have adopted plans out there, and
They followed the rules in regards to what they're planning on doing.
okay. Sound good?
Mr. Dahl, have you had all your questions answered through the Joint Planning Commission and, all the regulatory, gobbledygook that goes along with this?
No,
Yes,
this isn't a public hearing.
So, yeah,
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Dahl. Anything else for Dan?
no,
All right, thank you, sir.
Unless you have some recommendation for him, that's all I can
Yeah.
say.
Well, we just wanted to get some feedback and make sure that we're passing on the appropriate information. So,
Absolutely.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
thanks, Dan.
All right, discussion on smoke-free workplace ordinance.
Mayor and council, there was a discussion at our last council meeting regarding, if you may recall, we had a business owner who came and approached the council regarding concerns on our smoke-free workplace ordinance, specifically the prohibited amount of feet from entrances. At that time, the council had asked staff to at least put on a future agenda for discussion. That's obviously the purpose of this tonight. And so I've included some information regarding what's currently in our city code, along with some information regarding Minnesota's Clean Indoor Air Act. I believe the business owner that was here at our last meeting did send you some additional information, but it's really just a kind of a follow-up with a desire for discussion on this, and that's really the purpose of this tonight, is to provide a forum for the council to discuss this.
I think the issue that was brought up may have been resolved in that one of the businesses is moving further away. I don't know if that resolves that or not. I mean, not the whole thing, but. Yeah.
It's interesting, I stopped by several of the places downtown, businesses downtown, and I know Councilman Chad's businesses down there too, and actually somebody made a suggestion of, you can leave it alone 15 feet and enforce it. But the other thing they said is, if you go to making it smoke-free along the sidewalks from business hours, because that's what's affected by it. So no smoking on basically Main Street sidewalks from 8 to 5 or whatever it might be. Then you have your bars and stuff that at night aren't as impacted by it. And I thought that was a fairly good idea with it, because with the Main Street, you've got about 15 feet of sidewalk before you're on the road. And so it doesn't matter where you really walk downtown, you're in violation because the doors are so close to each other. And so that's what I gathered. I've actually floated that by several businesses and just talked to them openly about it. None had really had a problem with it, but they said, from 8, during hours of operation would be great, so we don't have the smell drafting in. But at night, it really doesn't matter. And with the bars downtown and that kind of thing, it would allow that clientele or those people to be able to do as they see fit. But I'll throw that to Councilman Szymzowski and to,
I mean, I don't have strong feelings because it hasn't been a problem for me personally. Nobody smokes in front of me and Dostal's Electronics, surprisingly. But I can see in this situation why this business owner was very upset. If I had somebody blowing smoke into my business all the time, but I wouldn't have any heartburn over what Tim just brought up, during business hours, no smoking on Main Street, but also, weren't we talking about 25 feet instead of 15 feet? That's what,
I think that was the request from the business owner, and so.
And the interesting part is, I went to that business owner, we walked off 25 feet, it wouldn't make a difference. That's the whole point. It was where that person was choosing to do it. If they went to one door, they were in front of the other door. So if we extended it, it really makes no difference because with downtown especially, when you walk it off, they're still standing in front of the next door. So
I can speak from personal experience in having a neighbor that consumes copious amounts. The smell's irritating. If I had a business, I'd be angry as the guy was.
well, and some of it was done on purpose.
Right.
And so that becomes a problem because we're just not getting along. But do we change a whole ordinance, you know, because somebody chooses to be obnoxious? I guess I would use that word lightly, but, you know, I think most people who smoke understand that that's the wrong thing to do. I mean, the respecting of other people is huge. It's the same with alcohol consumption on Main Street or anything else you do. It's being adult about it and respecting other people. But if you actually look at downtown and you measure it out, it's 15 feet to the curb. So there pretty much is already no smoking allowed on Main Street. But how much of your time are you gonna
I'm gonna
spend
say, Chief,
policing it?
if we were to look at a ban from say 8 to 5, would that be a difficult thing for you to handle?
Well, it would only be enforced in a complaint situation.
Well, one person said just up the fine.
I guess my opinion on it is, since that's what you're asking for, not that it would be difficult to enforce. I don't know that we have the resources to enforce it. Our day shift is busy enough already without having to worry about chasing down smokers on Main Street.
Gotcha. That's why I asked.
By the time you report it,
Yeah.
it'd be over with.
Well, and and I can't speak for the chief, I can speak for my office. I've been here now 10 years in January. This is the first complaint I've received on this in the 10 years I've been here.
I think kind of taken care of itself.
But the cannabis issue hasn't been
Oh,
there
yeah,
the previous
that's-
10 years. That's,
Yeah,
that,
I mean,
therein lies the difference.
That'll be a whole nother thing once that starts, I realize that.
Yeah, 'cause they're without
But, you know, the other thing we have to keep in mind, the county has already adopted, no smoking in public areas. So technically, when it comes to cannabis smoking, all those public sidewalks and public can't be smoked on.
Mark, have they done their final ruling on that? And that's a work in progress yet, isn't it?
Yeah, they haven't adopted anything with regard to cannabis, but just smoking in general. Like in the early 2000s, they also passed a smoke-free workplace ordinance, which I think applies to all the cities in the county. And as I remember, their limit's 10 feet. I mean, I'd have to check into that. That's just what I'm remembering. But at the time when we adopted ours, I was thinking, oh, the county's more strict than us. But
Is this something we leave as is for now? And if it ends up being more of a problem, then we can address it at a down the road? I'm just throwing that out there.
I think that would be okay to do.
Yeah, I agree. Thanks, Tom. So that's kind of the consensus, just leave it the way it is.
Keep an eye on it.
I agree.
It's fine, like I said, it was on for discussion, so if there was a desire to move forward with, an ordinance, that would be the next step, and.
Mark, if the county has that enforced or in place, that should cover us too, correct?
right.
You wanna look into that?
I'll check into that to see if I'm remembering it correctly.
Yeah,
I guess I can ask Chief, I mean, you're here, how many complaints do you get? How many people do you, cause we respond, the police department responds when somebody calls and says, hey, they're violating the law. How many calls do you get like that?
Regarding smoking at near entrance
Yeah.
in my career, less than a handful probably.
Okay.
And I think one of them was actually at the old police department, so we had to move the ashtray.
Yeah, but how long have you worked here though?
I think that answers the question. I mean, if the public or a business feels that that law is being violated, we have a system in place to take care of it.
Well, and I can't speak for the owner that was here, but, you know, if this is two business owners or two property owners, you know, not getting along, there's other methods to go about addressing that
Yes.
than having the city change an ordinance. So there's, so let Mark speak to that, but there's civil matters that they can pursue, so.
Right.
All right, anything else? Alrighty, let's move on. Unfinished business, second reading and adoption of ordinance number 24-850, ordinance related to cannabis regulations.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. At the last meeting, you approved this ordinance for the first time. You might remember our discussion was centered around the hours of sale for cannabis products, and we tried to align that as closely as we could with the hours for off-sale alcohol. The ordinance hasn't been changed since the last meeting. There's no proposed changes, and so staff would ask that you approve the second reading and adopt it.
Motion to approve number 24850 ordinance.
Second.
Motion by Pat, second by Chad to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. Under new business, wastewater treatment plant grinder replacement.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. Wanted to ask for your review and approval tonight of an emergency repair for the wastewater plant. Given the size of the repair in terms of cost, we wanted to make sure you were aware of it. It was not a previously budgeted item, not something we had captured on a CIP. It was something not this past weekend, but the weekend before, a bearing went out and ruined one of two grinders that we have in our pre-treatment process. So this basically is in line, one of our channels on the influence side of what comes into the plant, works to grind out any excess material, which is then removed and taken out of the stream for the rest of the treatment process itself. So wanted your consideration for it, again, just given the size of it, and answer any questions you might have.
I think we found out there's money in the budget that wastewater could take care of it. I would move to approve that request.
Second.
Motion by Tim, second by Pat to approve. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
We have the Hutchinson Public Library Board minutes from September 23rd, 2024. Chief Gifferson, you have anything else for us? Mike, you have anything else for us?
Two things. One, Councilmember Burley asked that I speak to the water meter project, maybe again just to address a few concerns that come up. Again, you approved the third phase of that project tonight. We're well ahead of schedule. Mayor had asked before status, we're at about 70%, so about 2/3 of the way through, quickly approaching that third phase. Again, one of the questions, concerns that continues to come up is whether or not remotely staff can turn off meters. While that technology does exist, that technology does not exist on this meter that we're putting in. Generally, the age, vintage of the meters we're replacing is anything from about 10 years old, some as old as 20 to 25 years old. And of our 5,200 meters, this project will replace about 4,500. So there's about 700 newer meters in the system that this won't replace. Again, we've had of the roughly 2,500 to 3,000 that have been replaced to date, still count probably on two hands how many issues we've really encountered. We've had a few, most recently had been some calibration issues where, again, fortunately our building clerk, Kim, kind of monitors and gets reports on this. Some just, large bills that were generally due to a calibration issue that were quickly resolved by staff. So again, we continue to take any questions, concerns that there may be. But fortunately, we've not had a lot of them. Staff will occasionally pull off the, more difficult meter or something that takes a little bit more time and take care of that. But generally, the vendor we have, HydroCore, has taken care of the great majority of the meters, and we hope to wrap up this spring, early summer.
Lead pipe.
Lead pipe, we're turning in our report. The mailer is going out. We're required by the Minnesota Department of Health by November 15th. So by this Friday, information piece to basically report on our lead copper. Again, fortunately, of all the meters we've done to date, all of the surveys that we had done, 0 lead pipes. The one that we did know of the system had been replaced earlier this summer. We do have, I think it was 205 galvanized lines that we will have to develop a plan for. There's going to be roughly a 5 to 10 year period. Those residents, well, all residents in the city will receive a postcard mailer just to be able to go to the map that indicates kind of our survey results. There's a separate mailer that will go out to 2 groups within the community. One is the galvanized line, so there's 200 and some that will go out to residents later this week after the postcard, and then another couple hundred that will go for anybody that we hadn't previously gotten information of. And so there's about 350 that are kind of unknown at this point, that either they didn't report, we haven't replaced the meter yet, and so there's still a gap. And so those residents will still have the chance to gather that information.
Was there a certain area that there was more galvanized?
No, it really was kind of citywide at this point. We had covered everything. The meter project, for what it's worth, the last phase is really on the north side of town with a little bit of work to still do on the southeast. So I would bet that's probably where we'd see a greater concentration, but generally speaking, the 300 are kind of scattered throughout the community. Of the 200 galvanized, a little bit the older part of town, where you'd expect some of those to have been done. We will do some additional testing, and residents will have that option too to test, just because, again, while they're not a threat for lead, there is always the potential in a corrosive water situation. Fortunately, due to our water treatment process, we have a very non-corrosive water source, but in a real corrosive situation, you could see some leaching. Again, we don't foresee that being a problem, but we will do some added testing just to kind of rule that out. And if we do hit upon something, those will be the first ones to replace. So likely in a future phase on the water meter or on the water plant, we'll likely see a phase that will replace those service lines though.
As long as I got you up here.
Yeah.
Had a resident call about the tree removal.
Yeah.
Now, if they have one on their private property, does the city tag that, or?
We could tag it if it were noted as a nuisance tree, like a dead tree, an especially large tree. The nuisance tree policy would allow us to at least, or if a neighbor maybe reported it, we would likely, get involved to kind of note it in that regard from kind of a life, health, safety aspect. But typically our domain is that boulevard itself, but we will get involved or get asked to be involved sometimes if it were something that may cause property damage.
All right. Anything else from Mike?
One last thing I'll note, otherwise, last week of the leaf cleanup already. So next Monday will be our very last day. So just a reminder to residents to take advantage of this week to get their leaves raked out to the curbside, as we'll be wrapping that up for in the final days of it.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark, do you have anything else for us?
Yeah, the only thing I had was congratulations to you and Pat and Chad on your re-election back to the city council, and look forward to working with you guys.
Thank you. Thanks. Tim, let's start with you tonight.
Well, the Sustainability Committee is regrouping, so there'll be new members on it. So that meeting is next week. The library continues to go on. I think it's Dinosaur Month this month. And so for kids programs, and they're working on the flooring.
Are you supposed to go like this?
Yes. Yeah, but I want to express some to the community and the businesses how many were the outreach to our veterans this week. I was incredible, the businesses and all those people. We feel very respected in this community, and we appreciate it. And I think I can speak for all veterans sitting here that I don't think one of them was unhappy with how the day went for them in our community. So thank you to our community for that. That's it.
Thanks, Jim. Dave?
Nothing more than just expand on what Tim had, and that's some of the veterans went to different schools and presented the flag and did some flag folding and explaining what that entailed and that type of thing. So that was a good thing that more people get involved in that. I mean, the kids get more involved with what the flag is about and that type of stuff. So other than that, I don't, MMDC is not until 2 weeks from tonight. So typically I don't have anything to go beyond that. So.
All right. Thanks, Dave. Pat?
Nothing.
Ken?
At Parks Board meeting, big news is Oddfellows Park is getting a new playground, but Barney will stay. So that's the big news. I'd like to thank everybody that voted for me in my re-election bid. And I just want to thank everybody at Park Elementary that helped with their Veterans Day program. My son was involved with it, and he was in it. And all the kids did an awesome job, and it was very well organized and a really nice thing. So that's all I had.
All right, thanks. Matt?
Just one quick reminder that prior to our next council meeting, we do have a workshop at 4 regarding the downtown plan. So you'll have I think we'll go through that draft report. So that's before our next council meeting at 4 o'clock. So on the 26th. So.
All right. Well, I was going to talk about LEAF. I know it's going to be last time, but just the residents be, aware that the tractor does stop and back up and go on. So I know we have some narrow streets, so just be a little patient when you see the leaf blow sucker out there, leaf vacuum. It's a big unit, and I give them a little room. And just thank everybody too for my re-election. 2 more years, as they say. So with that, that's
Also, just last thing on the leaf pickup, try to avoid parking on top of someone's leaf pile on the day they're supposed to pick it up. Had a couple of those.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, just because I parked in front of your house, don't
Like I said, just pick them up and put them in their trunk.
All right, motion to adjourn.